It's a rebel moon. We got monologues. With a rebel moon, we've got space vaginas. So.
What an incredible opening. Just
literally so.
Yeah. A brilliant statement of purpose right out the gate. My favorite part of the movie, in fact, is the opening space vagina.
It peaks 57 seconds into the movie, unfortunately.
I was so psyched when I saw that. I was like, yeah, he did it. Finally, Zack Snyder got to make his own film. Okay. Hi, this is Framework. We're talking about Rebel Moon, of course.
Of course. Part one. A child of fire.
Thank you, Al. I'm John. That's Al. June is here as well. Welcome back, June.
Thank you for having me back.
Well,
you guys, why are we talking about Rebel Moon? Because
you asked me to.
Yeah, right. What? But why? Because
I just don't question the why.
I know, like John and I are both. Neither of us are Snyder fans.
Nope.
I wouldn't say June is either, although he probably has more of an appreciation than we have.
That and I'm always kind of rooting for him. He sounds like a nice guy, so like I like rooting for him. But then every time I try to support him, I kind of like, ugh.
Yeah, I'm skeptical of the nice guy thing. Like he hasn't pissed off anyone who is like especially litigious or is gonna put him on blast yet. But I don't know if he would be a good hang anyway. But the thing is, why? The question about why are we doing this? I think there's something weird about this where even though I don't like any of his movies, they are perversely watchable. Like I don't look at my phone as much when a Zack Snyder movie's on as I do in other movies that I like better, that I respect more even.
I don't even know if I'd agree with that entirely. I certainly look at my watch during his DC films. I don't like those at all.
Okay.
But you can't deny that this one grabs your attention. I
don't know about that.
I can. Yeah. Well, it does 57 seconds.
Yeah. It's like, okay. But then I also heard that he doesn't really, top that. So
no.
So I went with that in mind. It's like, oh no, is it all downhill from here? I got to come clean a little bit. I did not give this one a totally full fair watch. I started it last night in a rush, but I was tired. It was the end of the day. And oh man, so many people telling other people their tales. And I was dying. I was like nodding off, and my girlfriend just goes like, we're turning this off. You can't make it. It's like, no, I can't. So I've been during running errands this morning while also playing it in Netflix in my earphones. Because it's basically monologuing. It's monologuing. So like I can do most of that.
This is an appropriate way to speak about it, I think. Yeah, I'm glad we had you on.
We're gonna have to talk about the monologuing, but I think before we move past that opening 1 minute, it's incredible. We've made a lot of. If anybody who hasn't seen this movie or maybe wasn't paying too much attention to the opening voiceover, the first image on this movie presents us is a star field, and then a space vagina opens up, and a big dick-shaped spaceship plows out of it. Now, you might think that we're making a mountain out of a molehill here or something, like that. This is just it's like a vague diamond shape, and that's the extent of it. Like. No, my God. This is a space vagina. Like, Snyder sat down with a visual artist and said, like, yeah, the spaceship wormhole, it looks fine. The general shape, it's vaginal enough. But what I'm going to need you to add is pronounced labia minora.
It's like, but why, Zach? Why? It's like, vaginas are cool. I love vaginas.
It's sexual imagery. Have you seen Dr. Strangelove? But then that sets us up for disappointment because I was so into this right off the bat that I was like, okay, I want that level of commitment to ill thought out ideas.
Yeah.
Throughout the rest of the movie. And then like there's no more really blatant but dumb sexual imagery.
I mean, there's like an unnecessary sexual violence throughout and the threat of it.
Oh, there's sexual assault to spare.
Yeah. We got that in spades. But yeah, it never comes up it's never as triumphant as that opening moment there, where you're just like dun 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 dun, vagina, penis through the ship. It feels like a porn parody. Honestly, it feels like Flesh Gordon And maybe it is. Maybe that's the reference maybe that's what he's stealing from in that exact moment. Because
well, we won't know for sure until we get the R-rated cut. So,
oh my god,
I'm a little curious. If I hear there's a lot more space vagina type stuff in that, I'll go for it. But otherwise, I can't imagine. I can't imagine coming back to Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire.
I had only thought about that in terms of course, they're going to add just like arterial blood spray to all the fight scenes, but if he adds like space pubic hair to the space vagina or something, that
it'll be like electricity going just on the top.
Yeah.
God. Oh man. Okay. So of course it's hard to like the movie. It's hard for us, our episode, to rebound from the space vagina opening, but from there we go into the Shire, basically, right? Like this
Pretty
is much as derivative as can be.
Shire Tatooine.
Yes, it's Tatooine and the Shire. This is so the story here is that this is a Star Wars pitch for an adult Star Wars movie that Snyder pitched to Disney way back when, and they rejected for being either too mature or maybe just not good enough. And he now made his own like knockoff version, and so every scene
with
in this movie,
blackjack and hookers, right? If you've seen the images, the meme.
Yes, that's exactly.
I'm gonna make
what
my
this
own
is.
Star Wars with blackjack and hookers. And forget the blackjack.
No, I mean, so every scene in this movie feels like it's directly biting off another thing. Like,
amazingly, yeah.
To what extent do we hold that against it? Because I don't know if being derivative is the worst sin a space opera can do.
Well, apparently not, because that's all this movie is. It is literally only stuff from other movies, and I still a little entertained by it, is the thing. Like, it was kind of fun to be like, oh, what is he stealing from this scene? Oh, Inglourious Bastards, wouldn't have expected that. You know, like, it's constant, and I mean, it is the film. The entire movie is, look what component pieces we've taken from these things. You know, yes, I saw The Hobbit and I liked it. Yeah, here's some Last Jedi. Here's some Harry Potter. You know, it's just on and on and on.
More Harry Potter than I expected.
Yeah, it's anything that's been popular for the last 20 years is what it feels like.
And it's they have the Avatar bird taming riding scene.
Yeah,
but the bird is just the creature from Harry Potter 3, which is
it's Buckbeak. The hippogriff, yes.
Okay, so what is the story? I mean, I guess the story here is it's the Seven Samurai, right?
Yeah.
I just kept thinking of Bug's Life. Like instead of Seven Samurai or Magnificent Seven, I just kept thinking Bug's Life instead, because that's the level at which I was kind of like, that's like too many tales. Why is this robot telling me everything about his history?
Oh, that robot, man.
Which then I was thinking like, oh, that I just kept thinking of Transformers: The Last Night, where Anthony Hopkins spends most of the movie's runtime hanging out with a robot named Cogsman, and now this time Anthony Hopkins is playing Cogsman. If you saw Last Night.
I think you know I did not.
I saw Last Night, sir, and yes,
about last night.
Ooh,
but if your movie can be compared but unfavorably to Transformers: The Last Night, then I think that speaks ill of your space opera, personally. But okay, so as much as this is like just Star Wars with sexual assault,
yeah,
it feels more like a YA novel than anything to me.
I mean, the subtitle, "The Child of Fire," already makes me think what
it's real Hunger Gamesy. Yeah,
Hunger Games and like Dragon Tattoo, like something on fire. I can't remember these titles. All like kind of they sound really generic. John, I think you're on the boards. You said like this feels like an AI generated movie.
I'm surprised this isn't like the main criticism most people are making about this. This is all just like regurgitated ideas and moments and scenes and characters from things that have been popular. It's nonstop. Yeah,
and it feels ChatGPT generated in the way that has like no sense of pacing or progression,
right,
yeah,
right.
or subtext. That's the thing that ChatGPT really struggles with,
or cohesion, right?
Well, I mean, that ChatGPT can kind of do okay, this happened and this happened and this happened thing, which is what this movie definitely is. What it can't do is any sort of subtext, any sort of humor, or any sense of pacing, because it's just like kind of working one sentence at a time, I think, and the movie does feel that way. I think, I mean, it's a little more distinctive than some of the other things I've tarred with that brush. The actual Star Wars product that come out.
The problem with this is, as stylistically gifted as visually gifted as Snyder is, his aesthetic, along with David Fincher's and Michael Bay's, I feel like those have been the huge like things that have been fed into AI. So when
Mhm.
all the AI stuff, people, hey, what if Ghostbusters was a horror movie? All that stuff, it all ends up looking like a Zack Snyder stuff. So
Yes.
by the time Zack Snyder does his thing, and I can look at it and say that all looks good, but none of it feels exciting. It all feels really like empty concept art, because there is no Zack Snyder's putting his personality into it, but like there's not much of a personality there to me. When I watch this.
Right. This is not like Denis Villeneuve's Dune, except when it's explicitly trying to steal from Dune. It is.
Right.
It's very much just it looks like a Zack Snyder film. It looks like a Netflix streaming movie. I mean, and it looks okay. This is a pretty good looking movie.
It's
a
good looking movie.
It's well shot.
It just doesn't excite me. It's like I've seen all this stuff before. Like despite how well it's put together technically.
I think there are parts of it that look bad because the movie does not commit fully to, or seems a little unsure of how much it's going for, like some of its aesthetics in terms of, do we want to go full Starship Troopers with making these space Nazis dress like actual Nazis?
Yes, they do. Mm-hmm.
Do we want do we want these space farmers to look like actual 18th century farmers? Like maybe a little. There's one random Dickensian street urchin that shows up to say, "Look, the ship's here," and those pieces feel a little tossed together in a way that Otherwise, the visual effects are very polished most of them.
Oh, yeah, I think the effects are great. It's the design, I think, is the issue. I think the choices made, it's stuff that's popular. It's stuff that has worked, and it's kind of just thrown together without any consideration as to, the obvious great version of this is Lord of the Rings, where they're just like, this is the elves, and they evolved this way, and this is dwarves, and these are regional differences between the dwarves, and they've come together because this guy has, they thought all of it through. None of that in this film. Absolutely none of that. It's it's designed to look like, space Nazis. Although they lean really heavily, a lot more heavy on the Nazi than the space. I would say they're mostly just Nazis that do have spaceships.
He's just wearing a necktie, like not a space necktie. It's just a regular necktie and dress shirt, which is weird. Although I will say one of the best things about this movie is Ed Skrein as the villain.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And his wonderful haircut.
Yes, his wonderful, terrible haircut.
I mean, I kind of enjoy a lot of performances in this, but it's sort of because they are, absurd or bad in some ways. They're big swings. Charlie Hunnam decides he's going to be Irish, has the stupidest accent you can imagine. That's kind of fun. Ed Skrein is the only person I'm like, you know what? You did the right thing here. Good job. I'm legitimately enjoying this rather than ironically.
Yeah, no, Charlie Hunnam is a lot of fun here. His accent does feel like it's specifically trolling some Irish friend of his.
Yeah, or just like to keep himself interested. It's just like, why not? What if I just did a silly accent, like a full-on leprechaun?
Yeah. Well, one of the things, they said that doesn't work here is the Shire / Tatooine area, the farming village of essential to the Seven Samurai setup, right?
Yeah.
You have to have the village under attack. Although usually it's by bandits, not by an actual intergalactic empire.
Empire force, occupational force.
I think swapping in, an imperial military force kind of screws up this setup in a way that
we want your food. Give us food.
Your grain. Yeah. Give us your grain, farmers.
My soldiers are hungry.
But it's also by the end of this movie, they've dealt a serious, it feels like a fairly serious blow to the intergalactic war machine. It's like, oh, but we're still going to have those eight houses on a moon somewhere.
That will be the last
the focus. Yeah, why?
I had that same thought when I was watching, this really does break the Seven Samurai Magnificent Seven Bugs Life. Even the Mandalorian has done this with various episodes where protect the village, but in the meantime they had this huge battle somewhere else that feels so much bigger than anything that seems like it's going to happen in part 2, the Scargiver.
Right.
Well, yeah, presumably, if these guys are in this village and the Empire knows it, wouldn't they just bomb it to hell, just glass the whole area, and that would be the end of it? I
guess they still want the fields to produce.
Still want that grain. They need that grain. Well, that is my question. Like, this first one is exactly the first 2 hours of Seven Samurai structurally. So is the second half going to be the second 2 hours of Seven Samurai, or is it going to be completely different? Is it going to be, well, I imagine a Death Star run and Death Star, stuff that is from Star Wars.
We'll just figure out what else has been popular. What's going to be popular in the next, like, wait, when is the second part coming out?
4 months, April.
He'll fill it in with whatever's popular lately. I don't know.
That would be fun if it's kind of behind. So it's just like, well, there's some quantum mania, and
we'll have Godzilla -1 is doing well. We'll put some kaiju in there. Why not?
That belongs.
Well,
yeah.
The kaiju could be great here. I mean, they flirt with that with Buckbeak the Hippogriff and the Spider Woman, but
Buckbeak the Hippogriff is exactly about the time where I shut it off yesterday. I was like.
Yeah, that is such a snooze of a sequence.
The setup takes forever, and it's weird because like Seven Samurai is like one of the shortest 3-hour movies I've ever seen, and that thing has no problem moving. It's why are we spending so much time with everybody telling their tale?
Well, there was a fat guy level boss that must be defeated there as well. There's always one of those. Yeah. We gotta murder some fat bully.
And it's nothing you couldn't see coming from like the first 5 seconds of that sequence happens for the next 10 minutes. It's just like, yeah, okay. Shirtless, Harry Potter guy is going to do his avatar thing, and they'll turn the tables on the gross fat slaver guy, because anybody who's like above 1.5% body fat in a Snyder movie is just automatically villainous.
Right. A gross person.
Yeah. I mean, so I think one of the big reasons why it doesn't work, other than, yes, having the villain be the Empire kind of throws off the whole Seven Samurai vibe, but another big problem why the whole farm thing doesn't land is Snyder can't sell any real affection for the Shire.
Oh, no.
so the whole setup just kind of feels hollow. Like, even like, so the YA heroine here, who's got like magic fighting powers and is going to be the, savior of the galaxy, like, even she is not actually like of this humble farming village.
No.
She's a Spartan warrior with Gamora's backstory about being kidnapped by Thanos. Right. And she's done like a few months of Habitat for Humanity work on this farm, but she's not an actual farm girl, because that would be gross.
They have a farm girl. It's played by what's his name? Michel Huisman, second Dario.
Oh.
Is kind of he's doing Luke, I guess, but it's sort of the female character. I think it's being subversive in that way. That's what I believe.
Zack Snyder loves women.
Yeah.
You think that's what Zack Snyder believes?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they also has the farm girl who is just the rape target.
Oh, well, of course. You got to have that. You got to have rape targets. Yeah. Mm-hmm. How else can you stop some rapers?
Actually, you know what? Michael Huisman is the rape target, too, when we get to the Mos Eisley Cantina.
He gets physically assaulted.
Yep. This is one thing I find. So I think part of the reason why I find Zack Snyder movies like interesting, even though I don't like them and I don't think they're good, but there's like Michael Bay has a little bit of this too, where they are excellent craftsmen. They get budgets to actually put behind things, but their sensibilities are very different from typical Hollywood stuff. And by sensibilities, I mean their values are bad.
Yeah.
And you don't normally, like, in a way that's weird. Like, we kind of talked about this in other contexts, that the arts, the creative arts especially, are sort of self-selecting in that they tend to attract people who value empathy and putting yourself in other people's shoes, because that's kind of a prerequisite to doing the work of writing characters or performing as other characters who aren't yourself. And it's rare that somebody who legitimately does not value empathy or teamwork and holds the majority of humanity in contempt makes this type of like quote unquote crowd pleasing blockbuster thing with
supposedly humanistic.
Right. And so that the tension between like prototypical, like the baked in humanism of blockbuster storytelling versus these guys who are like, yeah, but what if Superman's kind of an asshole? I think that's way more interesting. It throws off it makes things more interesting than just a bland version of Star Wars.
It's why I really want Snyder to do his Fountainhead movie, because that's the one where where his actual belief, like.
But I don't want that, because there's no sparks to be thrown off between that's just the thing.
I want it anyway, because I want to see what he does with that when it's like that, like aligned with himself.
I mean, that is like, it's crazy when you look back on it. I mean, I guess this is what we know about him now, having seen his DC films. But like you would put this guy in charge of Superman. I mean, he was such a visual stylist that I guess it made sense at the time, but it's like the exact wrong guy when you think about it.
And he made his bones doing comic book stuff and blockbuster stuff, so you kind of see how they connect those dots. But yeah, Superman especially. Like,
I mean, it's interesting. You look at 300 and Watchmen, the two big comic book movies that he made before it. One is like a incredibly right wing text, and the other one is pretty deeply left wing. And there's no real conflict for Zack Snyder there. There's no ideas that you feel are his in those. He's kind of just putting what is in the book. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Which is what this is, even without explicit source material. It does feel like just regurgitating scenes from everything else.
With that Watchmen, there is a clash with the way it frames Rorschach, right? Because it makes him more heroic than the comic did.
But yeah, 300 is the more cohesive film, I think.
Right.
But I don't even know if that's political. It might just be that it's simple.
Right. Other than the blanks it tries to fill to pad it out to feature length, where that's the boring stuff, the political stuff, back at home.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing that I find interesting then in this, blockbuster context is how far over the top Snyder has to take his villains, because his heroes are so like such fundamentally unlovable assholes that the villains have to be so over the top and grotesque to make it clear. Because he also doesn't want us to feel conflicted about them massacring the bad guys at all.
Right. Well, then Nazis, literal Nazis. So,
right.
That's the way to do that.
It's funny because I just
somewhat overweight people and queers.
Yeah.
I had just rewatched Starship Troopers the night before this too, and like the Nazi imagery in that movie. It's very specifically because he would to subvert the fact that the heroes we've been following are the fascists. This one just does it like what Star Wars does, where we're gonna address the bad guys but very, very explicitly. It's like way too explicitly an SS uniform
and an SS haircut. And
I think they have German accents, right? I mean, along with ish, it's Germany, ish accents and Irish.
The rapey soldiers have some sort of lower class accent that I can't quite place.
Cockney, I think,
like Cockney almost. Yeah, is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
God.
Oi.
Yeah, a lot of oys. And paired with that, I mean, the farming community also has just
they're all Irish, right?
Yeah, well,
that's the general
sort of. I don't know quite what Corey Stoll's doing here.
I'm always happy.
They all have Abercrombie and Fitch farming uniforms, of course. Sort of brown T-shirts and
everybody looks
slacks. Great. The beards they put on them are funny. It's.
Yeah, the bad fake beards, along with the two literal Nazi stuff, give this the vibe, like the high school drama vibes to me.
That's appealing to me, weirdly enough.
No, I get it for you. You're a drama graduate,
It's funny. It's like there's a real hey, let's put on a show quality to this film. I kind of have to say, even as it is just sort of flattened and overlong and just why is this scene 12 minutes long? There's still an enthusiasm to this movie somehow that I don't fully understand that makes it really watchable. That's what we're circling around here, right? Like, why is this kind of? I mean, I don't know, June. You might disagree. You turned it off.
It's not totally fair because I was exhausted at the end of the day, so I had to finish up. I did think the movie got better, for the last half because essentially it's one big action set piece by the end. Mm-hmm. But even then, I was just kind of like, I know he's good at this. Like, it's fine. Actually, I did miss some stuff, and I actually got to the ending. So when Ed Skeen, he has his meeting with Belisarius, and then he falls through the ice and he wakes up like like he just birthed out of the Matrix, right?
Sure.
At first, I thought, oh shit, because I missed some stuff. I thought the twist was, oh shit, has this whole story been taking place in the Matrix? That's how I was starved for like something to like turn. But then I reviewed it. It turns out, no, that was not the case.
No, they just kind of dropped that in the last 6 minutes of the movie.
I know.
We could do that twist next time because it was in the Matrix. So it's open, available.
So that was a cool image, though. The little the Zack Snyder's version of a back to tank, a floating bubble.
Yeah,
a lot of fun, cool ideas just scattered throughout. I think that's what kind of helps make it watchable. Like once I got to those things, like the cantina sequence with the little alien bug that speaks through a human.
Yeah, you wanted more of that.
Yeah, little stuff like that throughout. Like if the Tatooine, the Shire Tatooine stuff had more of that in some form, maybe I would have been more engaged, but I was not. Oh my god!
Well, it's a sexually amorous Anthony Hopkins robot. There's some stuff. There's.
I think we need to talk about the horniness of the movie a little bit.
It's pretty horny,
which it is. It kind of like falls off. Like this weird because this movie's cut in half and it's half a movie. There's a lot of stuff that sets up and then nothing happens with it.
Right.
And like one of the things that makes it feel the most like a YA novel is like the love triangle at the beginning is in the Shire is set up with just maximal clumsiness in like the first two scenes. And that's one of the things that doesn't go anywhere because it's half a movie, but there's all the setup of these characters in the farming village in that first half hour, the rape target lady and the Hopkins droid that seems like she might be horny for her. And the young soldier that like betrays the other Nazis to join the farmers, and the hunter guy who just somehow is not Hugh Jackman, but appears for all the Hugh Jackman from 15 years ago.
I know you're talking about.
And then there's the bearded like father guy who really wants Cor to fuck someone, just anyone. And,
right.
Not Corey Stoll, who's the other bearded father guy who
yes.
really wants Cor to fuck someone.
The father figure is the one who just keeps speaking in like tales, like,
right.
exposition. Why don't you?
And when they do her Gamora flashback monologue, they also established even her adopted Thanos father supposed to encourage her to fuck some guy in the Flash. Everybody in this movie is really, really concerned about Cora getting fucked on the regular. Like that's what everybody older than her is worried about, and everybody her age wants to be the one, I guess, being Husman and not Hugh Jackman. But anyway, all this stuff gets set up in the first half hour, and then it's just kind of like not there for the rest of the movie.
Don't worry, it'll pay off later.
I'm sure.
I'm sure the season gets keep watching. The season gets good at the end.
So we got all these things. We got all this stuff in here. I don't know. Could we briefly run through the movies that we're quoting, stealing from here? Because there's the obvious ones, which is Star Trek and Star Wars and Seven Samurai. There's probably some Star Trek in there too.
Well, does it help to go chronologically through the movie and kind of like, okay, and then this and then this?
So Lord of the Rings.
Definitely. I mean, I think The Hobbit more than Lord of the Rings.
Hobbit. Okay.
Yeah,
and it's also Star Wars too. She's sort of a Luke Skywalker farm boy.
I mean, to be fair, really. A lot of these all kind of share a lot of DNA, but it's just that the way Zack Snyder does it, it really pops out like, oh, I know exactly which one. So
he wants you to know what he's stealing from. It's explicit quoting almost.
Inglourious Bastards.
It's just doing the beginning of Inglourious Bastards. Yes.
Yeah. When the space Nazis show up, I don't know. To me, it feels more like The Patriot than Inglourious Bastards.
I think it's more like women talking. Sorry. Zack Snyder loves women.
Yeah, of course he does. See
if you see sucker punch.
And then
there's the cantina scene, of course. There's
yes.
I don't know, what is Charlie Hunnam a specific version of I mean, he starts off doing Irish Han Solo, of course, and then
he's more Del Toro in Last Jedi.
Exactly. Like he becomes explicitly Del Toro in Last Jedi.
A bit of Lando too, just because I mean they all kind of share that DNA. Because they're like even DJ and Del Toro in Last Jedi was supposed to be a little bit of that. They're all which is why the derivative quality of this is not like the sin itself, right?
Right.
Because we don't mind that. It's just that
much more though. It is much more than DJ quoting Lando. It is just, well, let's just do DJ. It's just like, let's explicitly do the quoting character that is supposed to remind you of the original. Like it's. I mean,
derivative is not terrible if you're just doing tropes, but there's a thing where if you're recreating a scene too closely, then it invites unflattering comparisons to the
But
original.
like in a way that's different from like what Tarantino has made a career of doing, for instance.
Yeah, that's
like
more pastiche. He's really
pastiche. Like
Mhm.
like
He'll steal a like a camera angle or a musical cue or something,
Mhm.
probably put it in a new context or something like that. This movie is it's like, no, you know that scene. We're going to do that scene. It's the cantina scene from Star Wars. It's going to be like that. It's going to have a very similar shots. You know.
Tarantino is actually a good storyteller, I think, and I feel like Zack Snyder.
Oh, yeah.
And similarly with another movie that came out recently, more like the creator, Gareth Edwards, is neither Snyder and nor Gareth Edwards. I don't think they're very good. They're
No,
like
but I mean,
great at imagery, bad at dramatic, like scenes that have a dramatic drive underneath or a dramatic
well, and
tension.
in a Tarantino movie, when an accomplished actor sits down to just tell you a story for 5 minutes, those are some of the best parts of the movie.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's usually because the story also relates to some underlying like game or
Yeah.
tension within that scene. Whereas this is just people tell you, and my story is this.
It's-
And you meet up a new person.
It's basically like it feels like somebody spitting out Wikipedia lore at me, like nonstop. It's
Mhm.
just lore, and I can't stand that. I think that's what really like killed me yesterday night.
Right. So the story of this movie is Seven Samurai. The structure of this movie is kind of the musical Cats. So I guess it makes Ed Skrein McCavity perhaps, and Hunnam is Rung Tug Tugger maybe. It's just I haven't seen the Cats actually, but if I understand, it's just a parade of characters coming up to stage and going, "I'm Grisabella, and this is my thing," and then they do a musical number about their thing.
That's
Except
right.
in Rebel Moon, the musical number, it's a monster fight.
Mhm. That's about right. Yeah. I mean, without the second half, where it all comes together, presumably, that's kind of exactly what it
You
is.
mean,
Yeah.
I mean, after the intermission in Cats?
Well, Cats, you're at least out. It's a complete story in one. But I mean, whatever. Would I have already watched part 2 if it was available right now? Probably not, but I could. So I don't know what point I'm making. Yeah, it's a big, open, weird mess of a film in so many ways. But I don't know. I feel like I'm the one I'm sort of grudgingly being the defender of this thing in this case, even though like everything about it is bad and in some ways sort of like morally indefensible. But I was still kind of like, it was kind of fun. I enjoyed laughing at the things, and I recognized movies I saw before, and that was fun. It's the worst kind of criticism or defense of a movie, at least.
And I don't know. The one thing I thought I would be here defending more is like say like, well, the action's good because Snyder's good at that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. He doesn't seem to really have a take on Star Wars style fighting. It's just a lot of people shooting guns from really close quarters, and like you think stormtroopers are bad shots. There are 4 different action scenes in this movie that like begin with just 3 to 20 enemy soldiers standing within 15 feet of the hero with guns already out and pointed at them, and she just I guess starts moving fast enough that they miss all their shots. Like there's no twist to it. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
There's
like even in the flashback to like her boyfriend like dead on the battlefield, there's like gunfire going off everywhere and it all misses her.
Yeah, but that's not. It's like the final, the big climactic action scene kicks off with all of the heroes like chained up in these stand-up like cages with like completely exposed and immobilized on an open platform with the enemies standing directly in front of them with their guns already out. And one of them hers gets unlocked, and so she jumps out, but everybody else is still just sitting there and cannot move or dodge.
Like,
and they're less than 20 feet away from hundreds of shots are now being fired and just nobody's getting hit.
I'm a big fan of that scene, actually.
Really?
It's a 10-minute Ed Skrein monologue for starters, where he goes over, like he talks to every character we've met for a good 3 minutes each. Gives you all the backstory you might have missed first time.
Grisabella, I remember your thing.
And spoilers, June. Charlie Hunnam is bad, and
I got that.
Yeah, the only one who is not attached to an immobile kind of torture device is Husman. Yeah, And they do that classic thing. It's like, I'm going to make you kill your girlfriend.
And I'm going to stand right behind you.
And here is a gun. It is in your hand with which you will kill your girlfriend. Or rather, with which you will kill your girlfriend. And I know you love her. I'm doing it for fun. Well, look at this. Here's it. Go for it. Do it right now. And then I'm just like, well, I'm just going to turn around and shoot you in the face.
Yeah, and he's so taken aback by that.
So is he dead? Because the movie cuts away. I can't tell if it's because of it's not the rated R version, or
I think it's not the rated R version. Yes, I think he's dead.
Because we don't see it. Like
Scrane's alive, Hunnam's dead. Yeah.
No, but I know it's like I know he's got he puts the gun under his chin, and then the implication is that. But then it's one of those where like,
he pulls the trigger. He pulls the trigger. He's it just cuts away before the gout of CGI blood pops out his head.
So that's what I'm wondering: is the R-rated version going to have that, or is Snyder because as sloppy as he is,
you're so unaccustomed and immediately suspicious of anything resembling restraint in a Snyder movie?
Right, exactly. That's what I mean. So I can't tell if it's because of the blood, or is it because of is he trying to save him to is Hunnam going to come back with a jaw missing or something?
Oh, it'd be great.
It wouldn't shock me.
Through, that's what. Yeah.
Well, they need villains. I mean, because that was a weird thing. They spend half an hour establishing these Nazi villains occupying the farm, and then just off them all in one sequence. 35 minutes in. So now it's like, okay, it's really just Screen, who's, like I said, pretty great. And then we get Hunnam, and I'm like, okay, I could deal with more Hunnam being as a bad guy, but he's gone now too. And Screen's already kind of had his ass kicked all over the place.
We have Belisarius. Ooh, can't wait for him.
Belisarius.
I think the Carrie Ells Emperor character is dead in this continent, but I'm not sure. Or maybe he's...
Carrie Elwes. Was he the king?
Yeah, he was the king. Yeah.
I'd like to see him come back, maybe as a head in a jar or with a robot body. Something that'd be fun, right? Yeah, why not? It's been in another movie. You can do it.
And then there's all the stuff with the lore, the backstory of the king and queen's daughter having healing powers. It was like, okay, thanks for that. Okay. And then when Gamora, our Gamora character, tells her backstory, she literally says I'm telling you this because I want you to know who I am. It's like, oh, thank you for that. she literally says I want you to know who I am.
I mean, that the girl with the magic healing powers is one of the most YA novel things going on here, and
it looks like a YA novel too. Like the visuals, just everything. Yeah. I think that's
it's weird to say that something looks like a novel, but I know exactly what you mean by that. It looks like a scene from a Divergent movie or a Hunger Games movie. Or something.
Looks like was it Golden Compass? Like Snow, little blonde girl, healing magic powers. Yeah. All that stuff. It's that AI quality again, because this stuff has all been used to feed into all the what my sense of what AI feels like, and now because of that, Zack Snyder's work now feels.
Well, for me, the AI-ness feeling is that it's got all those familiar elements, and yet the segue, the connections are not smoothed out quite the way they would be in a fussed over human work. They're sort of stapled together a little clumsily, and just moving from one to the other is not it doesn't confuse you, but it just is not very smooth.
Yeah. So it's just constant, 2 hours and 15 minutes of just that feeling of kind of it stumbling over itself a little bit.
Yeah. And just monologue, fight scene, monologue, fight scene.
Yeah, that part really doesn't help. Yeah.
It's fun if you're just viewing it as a collection of things from other movies and being like, oh, look at that. Now they're doing Harry Potter. Oh,
the
now they're doing Gladiator.
Uh-huh.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
right.
There's a Gladiator planet.
With an actor who it was in Gladiator.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted more.
I got a couple of actual belly laughs out of this, and one of them not from actual jokes or anything, the space vagina. I mean that got me.
Yeah, of course.
I yelled out loud in the dark to no one in my basement. I just yelled, "Oh my fucking god!" when that happened. And you would have thought that the dildo pods in Man of Steel would have prepared me more, but no, it didn't.
I demand more of that. Bring back those space dildos.
Another thing that made me laugh out loud though was when they had set up that they were going to find Diamond Hansu's at the Colosseum. He's the Gladiator Colosseum, and they get there, and it's literally just the Colosseum of Rome.
Yep.
with like a purple filter over it, but like the exact like, you know, crenellations and damage, like pieces missing from Rome. Like it's just a picture.
Space
You
Rome.
put a filter over. That's even like, or the Nazi uniforms. It's like there's a difference between evoking a thing and just taking the thing
just
and putting
doing
it
the
in
thing.
space.
What is it? I mean, like especially the Nazi uniforms. Well, it reminds me of all those we were getting a bunch of these. It felt like we were getting a bunch of these like about like 15 years ago. Like what's that Nazi movie in snow? Like Nazis in the Arctic.
Dead Snow,
you know
I
what
want to say.
Yeah, it's something like
Yeah.
that. That's what it started like. It starts to feel like that. Where I
And there
think
was
somebody's
Overlord.
right. Somebody
Mhm.
commented that this all feels like one of those Transmorphers movies. That studio that makes the knockoff stuff, right?
That could be.
Especially, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just that feeling just kind of throughout, except it's made by somebody who is actually very gifted at putting these things together visually.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I heard somebody say
Yeah.
it's like the like Italian Star Wars, Italian Spider-Man, where they just steal everything, literally, like including the music.
But with
from
the
those-
budget of an actual Spider-Man movie.
Yes,
Right,
exactly. It's okay. So here's another one I want to ask about. Very late addition to the team, Ray Fisher, as sort of the revolutionary leader.
I didn't know it was him. Like, I forgot he was going to be in it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He's. I think Snyder's the only one who'll hire him at this exact moment. But
Yeah.
yeah. And I could see, kind of as a favor, it's like, hey, thanks for having my back on that thing, throw him in this movie. But the role itself, actually seems kind of interesting at first. And he's
Darian Bloodaxe.
Darian Bloodaxe, yes.
The most D&D name ever.
He is immediately dispatched, like within 10 minutes of his introduction. He kills this character off, and you think he's going to be part of the team. He has like a backstory, which they establish. He has a dynamic visual look, and he seems like he would fit right in. No, he just dies. He just dies. And
well, but it's to set up his sidekick Jenna Malone as going to be the actual character representing that faction.
You think with that
going forward? I think maybe.
He has a sister.
Hey,
too,
maybe
right?
I'm giving
He has a sister.
the sister will come back in. Like maybe I'm giving it too much credit because there was other stuff like. At one point I thought, okay, this is a weird structured movie. We're not going to have time for the Seven Samurai thing, and we seem to have moved beyond that anyway. So I was really confounded at the end when they're returning to the farming village. It's like, now we still have to save our farming village.
We gotta save the Shire from being scoured.
Right.
The thing that movie's cut out. That famous movie has cut out because it's so redundant by that point, right?
But then I assumed as we're going back there, as the end credits music is starting up and everything, I'm like, okay, they're going to be crest the hill here and see the place on fire. And like,
would have been a better ending. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And when they didn't do that, I'm like, okay, maybe I can't give it that much credit anymore. Maybe Jenna Malone's not even going to be in the next one. Who knows?
I just think Jenna Malone is cool. That's why I put her in the movie.
Yeah,
she is.
Here was my question about Darian Bloodaxe. Because he's off so quickly, and that seems to be the story with him. Is he just referencing Black Panther, or more explicitly, the death of Chadwick Boseman? And that is what he's pulling out and using as a narrative here?
I have no idea.
Because I don't even know what you mean.
After the movie finished, there's a teaser trailer available for the part 2. And
I haven't seen
Bloodaxe. He's in some shots. I have no idea if they're flashbacks or something, but it seems like he's still going to be in it. So I have no idea unless it's just false advertising.
Well, we haven't gotten the sister Cleopatra Coleman backstory monologue yet.
Yeah,
so
it'll probably be a part of that.
In that one.
It'll probably be a part of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like he's kind of got Wakandan designs on him, and then is a charismatic young hero that is immediately killed, and then the gap that he leaves with his people is the driving force. And I'm just like, is it just a Black Panther reference? Because everything in this movie has to be something else. It has to come from a different thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's one thing. Snyder's pretty comfortable here, just taking from everything. I think he's not going to take from Marvel movies in that way. I think
other than Thanos and
DC
Gamora.
Yeah, it certainly
never
did
mind.
that.
He took the Gamora's. Yeah.
All right. Do we have? Let's bring this home here. What else do we have on Rebel Moon? Are you guys going to watch the director's cut? Are you going to watch part 2?
I'll probably put it on or something just to check out the differences. But I didn't sit through this one in full, so I probably won't sit through the other one in full.
Director's cut, no. Part 2 at this point, probably.
That's how I feel.
I mean, you kind of put me up to this, John. Like you planted in my head that we should talk about this one, and then once I knew it was coming, I don't know. I do get excited a little bit for a Zack Snyder joint. It's just like
it's an event.
Weird. It's somebody whose sensibilities are so much not mine, and sensibilities I despise in some ways, and yet they work in arenas that I am really interested in. Like this, he makes the kind of movies that I want to see ostensibly, and he makes them all wrong. And there's something perversely fascinating about that to me.
There's this appeal this movie has, and I think if I had to say what's good and bad about this movie in one thing, it is that I mean, aside from just the scavenger hunt for what he's stealing from, I think it's that it feels like this is the sort of thing a 14-year-old would write. You know, there's a purity to it in the way that it is sort of just stupid. That it's sort of stupid in its bones.
Is there any Aragon in this?
Yeah, there probably is some Aragon. You know,
Aragorn the Ranger.
No, the fantasy novels written by a 14-year-old that became popular like 20 years ago. That's what
they made him. They made one movie.
They made one movie.
I never saw it.
No one did. And yeah, that was kind of in the wake of Harry Potter. But I mean, that is the thing, though, right? I imagine if I read Aragon, it would feel like this. It would be this kind of like just a mashup of things that were popular that made an impact on 14-year-old who wrote it. You know, there's shit like it's like if I actually wrote the scripts I was making, thinking about writing when I was in middle school, and it came together and somebody threw $200 million at it.
I feel like we've seen a better version of that with Luc Besson's Fifth Element, where that's basically his 15-year-old imagination that he finally got to make. Well, and maybe it's because that's back when I saw it was 1998, 1997.
That's a wildly creative movie compared to this.
Yeah,
it is. Incredibly imaginative and
that's its own pastiche too of all the stuff that influenced him, but
it's French pastiche, so it feels much more unique to us.
It might just be that, yeah.
The stuff that he's pasting together there is stuff I'm not as intimately familiar with as this. Like John's saying, you just go scene by scene and be like, "Oh, that's this scene. That's this scene," and that's kind of what I'm getting at before. It's not just. It'd be one thing if it's like, "Oh, that's this scene I recognize mashed up with this other scene I recognize," but it's not really. It's just one and then the other and then the other. And then that, like I said, invites unflattering comparisons in my head.
Oh, for sure. Like this movie can't have a shelf life, right? I mean, it's just too derivative and too many composite pieces there for this to have any identity of its own outside of 2023 in this exact moment. I think.
Yeah, I think even the Snyder Bros, I don't think are going to fully cape up for this one. Like they did with the DC stuff.
It's it requires that ingredient requires a bit of Batman and Superman for it to have that, long-lasting stench or flavor to continue on. Whereas Rebel Moon, who knows? Honestly, I don't know. These days, people are fans of whatever just to make themselves stand out. Just like I thought it was good.
If they had managed to actually put this out under a Star Wars banner,
pretty
as a real Star Wars product that a lot of people hated, then I think you would have more of the people defending it more avidly.
Right, just because it stands out from the other, Lucasfilm
going to
Star
have
Wars stuff.
A bunch of General Tarsus stands or whatever is fucking yeah. I don't think so either. But who knows? You're right, Jen. This could be the thing. I mean, I think this is better than his DC movies. It's more entertaining for sure.
Yeah, you're right. No, it's better.
Man of Steel is probably a better movie. It's also more wrong-headed in its way, and that's fun. So maybe that one, but
well, you can't call this wrong-headed because it's a quote-unquote original product. There's nothing to say. Whichever direction its head is on is the one it's supposed to be on.
There's a purity to that, I guess. Or maybe
I
not.
Don't know at this point. I mean, part of the reason I think why maybe I am still entertained by Snyder in his badness is that I lucked out in that he got the big geek property he got his hands on and got to kind of ruin is one that I didn't care about anyway. If it had been Marvel or had been Star Wars, I have affection for those things.
If Zack Snyder's Spider-Man or something,
yeah, then I would probably have a lot less patience for him. But I don't DC was never my thing. I was always a Marvel partisan growing up, and so it's kind of a funny lark as this is how you could do this all wrong, and it's interesting to have that as an object lesson, and this is sort of how you could do Star Wars all wrong, although they're also not doing Star Wars very very right lately. So
yeah, this would fit right in with Disney Star Wars, except for all the sex stuff. It would I don't know. I mean, obviously there's another one coming in 4 months, and that's a done deal. The movie's done, I'm sure. So it's like you're getting more Rebel Moon, no matter what. And yeah, I mean, I'm totally watching the next one. I must admit. So hey, it's getting what they want. I think this is going to be an enormous hit for Netflix. I think everyone's going to watch.
When's
this
the R-rated version coming out? Is that like shortly, or is it a bit of a gap?
I want to say like a month from now. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
A way to reignite interest in the brand before the new one.
But they're just pre-planned in that they'll need to reignite interest. Like they're not going to pretend that they have to be drug into it by a Twitter campaign.
It's so silly that there's the PG-13 version and the R-rated version in the context of Netflix, where these movies this didn't play in theaters in some wide way. It played in just some specialty screenings.
Yes.
So there's no sense of trying to avoid the R rating for everybody can watch this. So the whole making a PG-13 and then the R-rated director's cut is as this blatant commercial move as much as it is Snyder making his Justice League 4:3 aspect ratio. It's just the empty a stylistic maneuver as opposed to anything artistically integral to anything, right?
No, I mean
it's pure marketing. It's pure marketing.
Empty stylistic maneuver. The movie is
right.
kind of what this is.
All right. So I don't know. Shall we reconvene? I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see how we feel in April.
R-rated version.
No. But maybe in April we'll talk about the second one if we want to. How about that?
We'll do a watch along, John.
It's like, June, are you snoring?
The movie's going to be 2:35. It's going to be longer. I know it's going to be a longer film, the second one.
The Indulgence, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, they've got a half dozen characters they have to bring back and actually pay off.
I'm actually surprised that this one was only 2 hours and 15. I'm honestly surprised.
Well, the longer cut is coming, June.
Yeah, I assumed it was going to be 2:30, and then the R-rated version would be 3 hours or something.
Yeah, I was braced for 2:45 when I turned this on.
You know what I mean? Yeah, that's what I thought too. It's 2 hours 15, and that's not too bad. And
all right, well, we probably put everybody to sleep already here. So, Rebel Moon, not great, but watch it if you want,
or not. Either way,
yeah, you'll be fine without it. Actually, sorry, watch the first 58 seconds.
Yeah, for sure. Do that.
Right.
It'll put a smile on your face.
Yeah,
I'd like to put the Spaceballs opening music on top of it, dude, as the ship just goes on and on.
The portentous Anthony Hopkins monologue is a pretty good companion for the space vagina. Actually, it's so self-important.
Yeah.
Oh man, all that stuff it just rolls in 1 year out the other.
Oh yeah, totally.
I have a hard time with those. No, even with Anthony Hopkins' voice, if it's not written in a certain way, right? It's just noise.
No, but it's perfect in that it's perfect misdirection for me because I'm listening to that voiceover and the last thing I'm expecting is to be assaulted by a space vagina immediately, the moment he finishes a sentence.
All right, enough of that. This space vagina good, Rebel Moon that's how we stand. Check it out at your peril. Thanks for listening. Rate and review on the podcast app of your choice.
Thank you, guys.